The janitor's weathered hands trembled as he placed homemade soup beside the CEO's hospital bed, his simple kindness cracking the Ice Queen's carefully constructed armor. Her eyes welled with tears as she read the child's handwritten note. "Nobody visits you," 4 words that exposed the hollowness of her billion-dollar empire. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go! The 4th-floor corridor of Mercy General Hospital was silent except for the soft squeak of Liam Burns' mop bucket wheels against the polished tiles. 3 in the morning, and the only company he had were the dimmed wall sconces casting long shadows down the hallway and the occasional beep from behind closed doors. He liked this shift, the quiet, the solitude, the way he could disappear into the rhythm of his work without interruption. Liam paused outside room 412, noticing the door was slightly ajar. The room had been empty since yesterday, prepped and waiting for a new patient. Protocol said he should close it, but something made him push it open instead. The small movement sent a whiff of antiseptic cleaner into the corridor, mingling with the lingering scent of bleach from his own cart. The room was dark except for the glow of city lights filtering through the blinds. A figure stood by the window, tall, elegant, out of place in the sterile environment. Even in silhouette, Liam recognized her immediately. Aveline Langford, the CEO of Langford Pharmaceuticals. The woman whose name was on half the medicines in this hospital. The woman who signed the checks for the company that contracted the janitorial services Liam worked for. She turned at the sound of the door, and Liam saw her face was streaked with tears. "I'm sorry," he stammered, taking a step back. "I thought the room was empty." "I'll come back." "No," she said, her voice surprisingly steady for someone who'd clearly been crying. "It's fine. I was just leaving." She moved toward the door, and Liam noticed she was clutching a manila folder so tightly her knuckles had gone white. As she passed him, the folder slipped from her grasp, papers spilling across the floor like fallen leaves. "Let me," Liam said, kneeling to gather them. Medical charts, lab reports. The words malignant and aggressive jumped out at him before he could avert his eyes. "Thank you," she said, taking the papers with hands that trembled slightly. Their fingers brushed, and for a moment something passed between them. A current of shared humanity that transcended their vastly different stations in life. Then she was gone, her expensive perfume lingering in the air long after the click of her heels faded down the corridor. Liam returned to his cart, but the encounter left him unsettled. Aveline Langford was notorious in the business world for her steel spine and ice-cold demeanor. The media called her the Frost Queen, brilliant but ruthless, the kind of CEO who could announce layoffs without blinking. Seeing her vulnerable, human, it was like witnessing a solar eclipse. He finished his shift at 6, muscles aching as he clocked out. The morning sun was just beginning to paint the city skyline as he walked to his apartment 6 blocks away. The early September air held the promise of autumn, cool against his face after the warm hospital. Inside his small 2-bedroom apartment, he moved quietly, not wanting to wake Maya. He set the coffee brewing and dropped his uniform in the hamper, showered quickly and changed into a worn t-shirt and sweatpants. Precisely at 6:45, Maya's bedroom door opened. His daughter emerged, rubbing sleep from her eyes, her dark curls a wild tangle around her small face. At 7, she was already so much like her mother it sometimes took his breath away. "Morning, Dad," she yawned, climbing onto a kitchen stool. "Morning, sunshine," he set a bowl of cereal in front of her. "Sleep okay?" She nodded, spooning Cheerios into her mouth. "Are we still going to the park today?" "After school," he promised. "Mrs. Henderson will pick you up and I'll meet you there at 4. He'd arranged his shifts to have Thursdays off 1 full day each week when he could just be Maya's dad. After dropping her at school, Liam headed to the public library. He hadn't planned to look up Aveline Langford, but his fingers typed her name into the search bar almost of their own accord. Recent news articles appeared on the screen. Asterisk Langford Pharmaceuticals stock soars after new cancer drug approval. Asterisk Aveline Langford, named among 50 most powerful women in business. Asterisk Langford announces $100 million. Research initiative for rare diseases. Asterisk nothing about illness. Nothing personal at all. Liam was about to close the browser when a small news item caught his eye. Asterisk Thomas Langford, 67, renowned oncologist and father of pharmaceutical CEO Aveline Langford, retires suddenly. Asterisk the article was 3 weeks old. It mentioned health reasons but gave no details. Liam stared at the screen, remembering the medical charts he'd glimpsed. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. The following night, Liam was mopping the 3rd-floor corridor when he saw her again. Aveline Langford emerged from the elevator wearing dark slacks and a simple blouse, dressed down by her standards but still obviously expensive. She walked briskly toward the oncology wing, her face a careful mask of composure. Liam kept his head down, but his eyes followed her. She stopped at the nurse's station, spoke briefly with the charge nurse, then disappeared into room 327. 2 nights later, the name on the door of room 327 read Thomas Langford, M.D. Liam avoided the room during his round, giving the family privacy. But at 4 a.m., as he was emptying trash cans in the lounge at the end of the hall, he heard a door open. Aveline emerged, looking exhausted, her perfect posture now slumped with fatigue. She walked to the window at the end of the corridor and stood there, staring out at the city lights, her reflection ghostly in the glass. Something made Liam approach her. Maybe it was the way her shoulders shook slightly, or the memory of his late wife's hospital stays. when the night seemed to stretch endlessly before him. "Coffee?" he said, holding out a paper cup from the nurse's station. "It's terrible, but it's hot." She turned, startled, then took the cup with a slight nod. "Thank you. How is he?" Liam asked softly. She looked at him sharply. "Excuse me? Your father?" Liam said. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't pry." "How did you—" She stopped, recognition dawning. "The janitor from the other night. Room 412. Liam," he said. "Liam Burns." She studied him over the rim of her cup, her gaze calculating. "You read his chart?" "No," Liam said quickly. Just pieces came together. "I've spent a lot of time in hospitals." She seemed to accept this, turning back to the window. "He has pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The prognosis is not good." "I'm sorry," Liam said, meaning it. "That's a tough diagnosis." "Yes," she agreed flatly. "It is." They stood in silence, looking out at the city below. Then she straightened, the moment of vulnerability passing like a cloud over the moon. "Thank you for the coffee, Mr. Burns," she said, formally handing him the empty cup. "I should get back." The next night, Liam left a fresh cup of coffee on the small table outside room 327, along with a paperback novel he'd noticed in her purse. He didn't expect acknowledgement, and he didn't receive any. But the night after that, a note waited for him. Written on hospital stationery in elegant, precise handwriting. "Thank you for the coffee. The book helps pass the time." A strange routine developed. Each night Liam worked, he'd leave something small outside her father's room. A coffee, candy bar from the vending machine. Once a small sketch pad and pencil when he noticed her doodling on a napkin. In return, she left brief notes. Never more than a sentence or two, but enough to form a tenuous connection. He learned that Thomas Langford had been diagnosed just after his retirement, that he'd refused treatment initially, only agreeing when Aveline had made certain arrangements. "He's too stubborn for his own good," she wrote once. Family trait. On his night off, Liam found himself thinking about her, sitting alone in that hospital room, about what it must be like to be Aveline Langford, powerful enough to command boardrooms, but powerless against the rogue cells multiplying in her father's body. He thought, too, about Maya's mother, about the weeks he'd spent in hospitals much like this one, watching cancer steal away the woman he loved, piece by piece. How even now, 3 years later, the antiseptic smell of hospital corridors could trigger memories so vivid they left him breathless. The following Tuesday, Liam arrived for his shift and immediately sensed something was wrong. The atmosphere on the oncology floor was subdued, the nurses speaking in hushed tones. Room 327's door was closed, the nameplate removed. His stomach dropped. He approached the nurses' station where Marge, the night charge nurse, was updating charts. "Dr. Langford?" he asked quietly. "Transferred to ICU an hour ago," Marge said, looking up. "Things went downhill fast." She gave him a knowing look. "You've been leaving things for his daughter." Liam nodded, not bothering to deny it. "She's still up there," Marge said. "5th floor, room 512. "Thanks," he said, turning to go. "Liam," Marge called after him, "it doesn't look good. They're talking hospice." The words hit him like a physical blow. He knew what hospice meant. End of life care. No more treatment options. The beginning of goodbye. He continued his rounds mechanically, his mind elsewhere. At his break, he found himself heading to the 5th floor. He had no plan, no words of comfort to offer, just an inexplicable need to let Aveline know she wasn't alone. The ICU was quiet, the lights dimmed for the night. Through the glass partition of room 512, he could see Thomas Langford, diminished against the white sheets, tubes, and wires connecting him to an array of softly beeping machines. Quote, and beside him, Aveline, her head bowed, holding her father's hand. Liam backed away. This wasn't his place. He was just a janitor who'd shared a few moments of kindness with a woman going through hell. Nothing more. But as he turned to go, Aveline looked up and saw him. Their eyes met through the glass, and in that moment, something passed between them. A recognition, an understanding that transcended their differences. She gave him a small, tired nod. It was enough. Liam didn't sleep well that day. He moved through his afternoon with Maya like a sleepwalker, smiling and nodding at her stories from school while his mind kept returning to the ICU and the look on Aveline's face, that bone-deep exhaustion, the grim acceptance. He knew that look intimately, had worn it himself during Rebecca's final days. At work that night, he waited until his first break before heading to the 5th floor. He brought nothing this time, just himself. Through the glass partition, he could see that Thomas was still there, still connected to machines, but Aveline was gone. A young woman in a lab coat, a resident, probably was checking his vitals. She finally went home, a voice said behind him. It was Dr. Carter, the oncologist Liam recognized from his year's work floors. About 2 hours ago, I practically had to order her out. How is he? Liam asked, keeping his voice neutral like he was just making conversation. Dr. Carter gave him a measured look. You know I can't discuss patients, Liam, right? Sorry. He turned to go, embarrassed at overstepping. She'll be back in the morning, Dr. Carter added quietly. She hasn't left his side for more than a bathroom break in 3 days. Liam nodded, understanding what wasn't being said. Time was short. He returned to his duties, but as he worked, an idea began to form. He remembered the endless hospital vigils during Rebecca's illness, the way time seemed to stretch and compress, reality narrowing to the beep of monitors and the squeak of nurses' shoes in the corridor. How the smallest gesture, a nurse bringing a blanket, another patient's family sharing their takeout, had felt like a lifeline to the world outside. By the time his shift ended, Liam had a plan. That evening, he picked Maya up from school and took her to their favorite diner. As they slid into their usual booth, he studied his daughter's face, trying to find the right words. "Maya," he began, "I need to ask you something important." She looked up from the menu, instantly alert. Maya had grown up fast after Rebecca died, sometimes too fast. She could read his moods better than anyone. "Is everything okay, Dad?" "Everything's fine," he assured her. "But there's someone at the hospital who's going through a hard time. Her father's very sick, like Mom was." Maya's eyes softened with understanding beyond her years. "Is she sad?" "Yes, very sad. And I was thinking we might do something to help her. Not anything big, just something to let her know she's not alone." Maya considered this, twirling a strand of dark hair around her finger, a habit she'd inherited from Rebecca. "What were you thinking?" Over chocolate milkshakes and fries, they formed a plan. The next morning, after dropping Maya at school, Liam visited the farmer's market and then spent an hour in the kitchen of their small apartment. He was no chef, but Rebecca had taught him a few things, and he'd gotten better out of necessity after her death. By afternoon, he had a wicker basket packed with simple but nourishing food: homemade chicken soup in a thermos, fresh sourdough bread, cheese, and fruit. He added a jar of honey from the farmer's market, a small bunch of late summer wildflowers, and a handmade card from Maya, decorated with glitter and hopeful rainbows. He felt slightly foolish as he walked into the hospital that evening, basket in hand. This was presumptuous, crossing a line. Aveline Langford could order five-star cuisine with a snap of her fingers. Who was he to offer homemade soup? But he remembered the haunted look in her eyes, the way she'd clutched his coffee cup like a lifeline. Sometimes it wasn't about the quality of what was offered, but the simple fact that someone had thought to offer anything at all. Thomas Langford was still in the ICU, but the atmosphere had changed. The nurses moved with the hushed efficiency that signaled the end was near. Aveline sat beside the bed, still as a statue, her hand resting lightly on her father's arm. She wore the same clothes as yesterday, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, stark contrast to her usual polished appearance. Liam hesitated in the doorway, suddenly uncertain. Then Dr. Carter appeared at his elbow. "She hasn't eaten since she came back this morning," he said quietly. "Maybe you'll have better luck than the nurses." With a deep breath, Liam knocked softly on the doorframe. Aveline looked up, her eyes taking a moment to focus, to place him. "Mr. Burns," she said, her voice raspy from disuse. "Liam," he corrected gently, stepping into the room. "I thought you might need this." He set the basket on the small table beside her. She stared at it blankly, as if it were an object from another world. "It's just some food," Liam explained, feeling increasingly awkward. "Soup, bread, nothing fancy." "You made this?" she asked. He nodded. "The soup. Yes, and my daughter made you the card." Aveline reached for the colorful construction paper, carefully opening it. Inside, Maya had written in her best second-grade handwriting, "When my mom was sick, sometimes people forgot to visit her. Dad says nobody visits you. We're sorry your dad is sick. Hope the soup helps." Aveline's hand trembled slightly as she set the card down. "Your daughter lost her mother 3 years ago," Liam said. "Cancer." Understanding passed between them, the kind that only comes from walking the same dark road. "Thank you," she said simply. "Please thank your daughter for me." Liam nodded and turned to go, but her voice stopped him. "Would you stay? Just for a few minutes?" The request surprised him, but he pulled up a chair on the opposite side of the bed. Thomas Langford lay between them, his breathing shallow, skin waxy and yellow with jaundice, the telltale sign of liver involvement. Liam had seen it before. "They're talking about hospice," Aveline said, her voice flat. "Taking him home to die in comfort, they say, as if there's comfort in any of this." Liam knew better than to offer platitudes, a terrible choice to have to make. "He built that company from nothing," she continued, as if she hadn't heard him. "Langford Pharmaceuticals, his life's work. He wanted to cure cancer. Ironic, isn't it? He's an oncologist," was she corrected. "One of the best. He transitioned to research 15 years ago, dedicated his life to it." She looked up at Liam, her eyes suddenly fierce. "Do you know what the survival rate is for pancreatic cancer, Mr. Burns?" "Liam," he reminded her. "And yes, it's low. 9%, she said. 9% survive 5 years after diagnosis. My father spent his entire career trying to improve those odds, and now he's on the wrong side of the statistics." A bitter laugh escaped her. "Some legacy. I think preventing others from suffering is a pretty good legacy," Liam said quietly. Aveline looked at him sharply, then her expression softened. "Yes, you would understand that, wouldn't you?" They sat in silence for a few minutes, the only sound the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor and the hiss of oxygen. "You should eat something," Liam finally said, nodding toward the basket. "The soup's still hot." To his surprise, she complied, reaching for the thermos. The simple act of unscrewing the cap seemed to take all her concentration. She poured a small amount into the cup and took a cautious sip. "It's good," she said, sounding almost surprised. "Thank you, my wife's recipe," Liam said. She believed soup could fix almost anything. Smart woman, she was. Aveline took another sip, then set the cup down. "I should be at the office. There's a board meeting tomorrow. Quarterly projections, acquisitions to approve." She spoke mechanically, as if reciting items from a distant world. "They'll manage without you," Liam said. "Will they?" She looked genuinely uncertain. "I've never missed a board meeting. Not one in 15 years. First time for everything," Liam said. "Your father needs you more than they do right now." The words hung in the air between them. Simple but true. Aveline's shoulders slumped slightly, the corporate mask slipping again. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted softly. How to just sit here and watch him die. Nobody does, Liam said. You just do it anyway. She nodded, accepting this hard truth. Then she straightened, gathering herself. I should let you get back to work. I've kept you too long. I'm on break, Liam said, but I should go. Try to eat a little more if you can. She nodded. Thank you, Liam. For the food. For single quotes, she gestured vaguely, encompassing everything else: the company, the understanding, the lack of empty reassurances. Any time, he said, meaning it. Outside in the corridor, he checked his watch. His break had ended 15 minutes ago. Marge would cover for him, but he couldn't push it. As he turned to go, Dr. Carter emerged from a nearby room. That was a kind thing you did, the doctor said, nodding toward Aveline's room. Liam shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. Just soup. No, doctor, Carter said. It wasn't just soup. He glanced at the room, then lowered his voice. Thomas has maybe 48 hours, if that. She's going to need more than soup to get through this. Single quotes, Liam nodded, understanding the unspoken request. I'll keep an eye on her. That night, as he mopped the third-floor corridors, Liam found himself thinking about Aveline, about the weight she carried running a pharmaceutical empire by day, watching her father die by night. He thought about Maya's card and the simple truth written in a child's hand. Nobody visits you. It struck him as profoundly sad that someone so powerful could be so alone, that the woman who signed his paychecks indirectly, who commanded boardrooms and made decisions affecting thousands of lives, had no one to bring her soup when her world was falling apart. By morning, Thomas Langford's condition had deteriorated further. Liam heard the nurses talking when he came on shift. The decision had been made, no hospice after all. There wasn't time. The doctor would remain in the ICU, made as comfortable as possible for his final hours. Liam didn't intrude that night. He glimpsed Aveline through the glass, still at her post, looking like she'd aged years in a single day. He left a fresh basket outside the door, more soup, sandwiches, fruit, and a thermos of good coffee from the cafe across from the hospital, instead of the burned stuff from the nurse's station. He didn't expect to see her again, assuming she'd be gone by the time his next shift started. Thomas Langford would be dead, and Aveline would return to her world of boardrooms and balance sheets, their brief connections severed by the natural order of things. But when Liam arrived for his shift the following evening, Marge pulled him aside immediately. She's asking for you, the nurse said without preamble. Room 412, room 412, the empty room where he'd first seen Aveline Langford crying by the window. Liam hesitated outside the door, a strange sense of déjà vu washing over him. Go on, Marge urged. She's been asking for you since she got here. He knocked softly before entering. The room was no longer empty. Thomas Langford lay in the hospital bed, eyes closed, skin ashen. The machines were gone, no monitors, no IVS, just an oxygen cannula delivering gentle relief to lungs that struggled for each breath. The room was dimly lit, peaceful in a way the harsh fluorescence of the ICU could never achieve. Aveline sat in a chair beside the bed, still holding her father's hand. She looked up when Liam entered, and he was struck by the raw grief in her eyes. He's gone, she said simply. Liam approached the bed, understanding now. Thomas hadn't been moved to this room for treatment. He'd been moved here to die with dignity, away from the beeping machines and constant traffic of the ICU, and now it was over. When? Liam asked quietly. 20 minutes ago. Her voice was hollow. He just slipped away. Between one breath and the next, Liam knew that moment, that impossible transition when a person became a body, the profound, terrible stillness that followed. I'm so sorry, he said, the words inadequate but necessary. They'll be coming to take him soon, she said, to the morgue. I asked for a few minutes alone first, but single quotes, she faltered, seeming lost. I didn't want to be alone after all, and I thought of you. The admission hung in the air between them, fragile and unexpected. Liam understood what it must have cost this fiercely independent woman to reach for connection in her darkest moment. I'm glad you did, he said simply, taking the chair on the opposite side of the bed. They sat in silence for several minutes, the room quiet except for the soft hiss of the oxygen that Thomas no longer needed. I keep thinking I should call someone, Aveline finally said. His colleagues, the board, my assistant. She gave a small, bitter laugh. But I can't think of a single person who would come for anything other than obligation or opportunity. She looked directly at Liam. Isn't that pathetic? I'm one of the most powerful women in the country, and when my father dies, the only person I can think to call is the hospital janitor. There was no self-pity in her voice, only a stark, honest assessment that cut to the bone. Sometimes the people closest to you on paper are the furthest away in reality, Liam said. And sometimes strangers become not strangers. She nodded, accepting this. He was so proud when I took over the company, prouder than when I graduated Harvard or got my MBA. You'll do what I never could, he told me. You'll change the world. She looked at her father's still face. I wonder if he'd still be proud now. Why wouldn't he be? Because I've spent 15 years chasing profits instead of cures, she said bluntly. Langford Pharmaceuticals has become exactly the kind of company he despised when he started it, focused on quarterly returns instead of patient outcomes, charging exorbitant prices for drugs people need to survive. She closed her eyes briefly. Do you know how much our pancreatic cancer drug costs, Liam? One that might have given him an extra month or two? Liam shook his head. $80,000 a month, she said. Insurance covers most of it, but still, $80,000 for a few more weeks of life. She looked at her father. He refused to take it, said it wasn't worth the cost. His last act of principle. Before Liam could respond, there was a soft knock at the door. A solemn-faced orderly stood there with a gurney. "Ms. Langford, we're here to transport your father." Aveline's face went blank, the corporate mask sliding back into place. She stood, smoothed her skirt with mechanical precision, and nodded once. "Of course," she said. "I'll just need a moment." The orderly backed out respectfully, closing the door behind him. Aveline turned to her father one last time, resting her hand lightly on his forehead. "Goodbye, Dad," she whispered. Then she straightened, composed once more, and headed for the door. "Wait," Liam said before she could leave. "What will you do now?" She paused, her hand on the doorknob. "Arrange a funeral, issue a press release, attend the board meeting tomorrow." She recited these tasks like items on a to-do list, devoid of emotion. "Life goes on, Mr. Burns." "Liam," he corrected automatically. "And that's not what I meant." She turned back to face him, suddenly looking exhausted. "I know what you meant, and I don't have an answer." With that, she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her. Liam watched from the window as the discreet mortuary van pulled away from the hospital loading dock 30 minutes later. In the distance, the first light of dawn was breaking over the city skyline. Thomas Langford was gone, and with him the strange connection that had briefly tied Liam to Aveline's world, or so he thought. 2 days later, Liam was in the hospital cafeteria grabbing a coffee before his shift, when he saw the headline on a discarded newspaper: "Pharmaceutical giant mourns founder's death." Below it, a photo of Thomas Langford in his younger days, alongside a recent picture of Aveline, looking polished and poised as she left the funeral service. The article described Thomas as a visionary and humanitarian, mentioning his early work in oncology and his founding of Langford Pharmaceuticals, with a mission to make cancer treatment access. What the article didn't mention was the bitter irony Aveline had shared with Liam, that the company had drifted so far from Thomas's original vision that he had refused their own treatment at the end. Liam folded the paper and headed to the locker room to change into his uniform. He didn't expect to hear from Aveline again. Their brief connection had been born of crisis, a temporary bridge between worlds that would naturally dissolve now that the crisis had passed. Yet that night, as he was mopping the corridor outside the pediatric oncology unit, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Is your offer of soup still open?" Liam stared at the message, surprised not only by its content, but by the fact that Aveline had somehow obtained his personal number. Though perhaps he shouldn't have been surprised. She was, after all, the CEO of a major corporation. Finding a janitor's phone number would hardly be a challenge. He hesitated before responding. Was this a good idea? The boundaries had been clear when Thomas was dying. Aveline was a woman in crisis, and Liam was offering simple human kindness. But now, always, he typed back. "When and where?" The response came quickly. "Tonight, after your shift. I'll send a car." Liam frowned at the phone. This was crossing lines he wasn't sure should be crossed. Yet something made him respond. "I have my daughter tonight." "Rain check?" There was a longer pause before the next message arrived. "Bring her. The car will be there at 7. Now Liam was truly taken aback. Bring Maya to wherever Aveline Langford lived? The very idea was absurd. Yet he found himself texting Mrs. Henderson to let her know he'd pick Maya up himself after his shift. True to her word, a sleek black town car was waiting outside the hospital when Liam emerged at 6:45, still damp from the quick shower he'd taken in the staff locker room. The driver, a stone-faced man in a dark suit, merely nodded when Liam explained they needed to pick up his daughter first. Maya was understandably confused when the luxury vehicle pulled up outside Mrs. Henderson's modest apartment building. "Dad?" she asked as he helped her into the back seat. "Whose car is this? Are we in trouble?" "No, sweetheart," Liam assured her, settling in beside her. "Remember the lady from the hospital? The one you made the card for? She's invited us to visit." Maya's eyes widened. "The lady whose dad was sick? Is he better?" Liam exchanged a glance with the driver in the rearview mirror, but the man's expression revealed nothing. "No, Maya," Liam said gently. "He passed away. But she liked your card very much, and she wants to thank you in person." Maya absorbed this information with the solemn consideration she always gave to matters of loss. "Is she sad?" "Yes. Very sad." Maya nodded decisively. "Then we should definitely bring her soup." The driver cleared his throat. "Miss Langford anticipated that request, sir," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "There's a fully stocked kitchen at the penthouse." "The penthouse, of course. Where else would Aveline Langford?" The drive took them through progressively more upscale neighborhoods until they reached a gleaming high-rise in the heart of the financial district. The driver pulled into a private underground garage and escorted them to a private elevator that required a key card to operate. "Ms. Langford is expecting you," he said, swiping the card and pressing the button marked P. "She's asked me to tell you to make yourselves comfortable. She may be a few minutes late. There was an issue at the office." The elevator ascended silently, its speed making Liam's ears pop. Maya gripped his hand tightly, her expression a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Remember your manners," Liam whispered as the elevator slowed to a stop. "And don't touch anything that looks expensive, so... everything?" Maya whispered back, showing a flash of her mother's wry humor. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse foyer, a marble-floored expanse bigger than Liam and Maya's entire apartment. Beyond it stretched a vast open living space with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city, now glittering with evening lights. "Wow," Maya breathed, her eyes wide. "It's like a castle in the sky." "Indeed it is," came a voice from behind them. They turned to see Aveline emerging from what appeared to be a home office, still dressed in a formal business suit, though she'd removed her heels. "M's. Langford," Liam said, suddenly acutely aware of his worn jeans and faded t-shirt. "Thank you for inviting us." "Aveline, please," she corrected, approaching them. Her gaze shifted to Maya, softening perceptibly. "And you must be the artist who made that wonderful card." Maya nodded, suddenly shy. "I'm Maya," she said in a small voice. "I'm sorry about your dad." Something flickered in Aveline's expression, pain, quickly masked. "Thank you, Maya," she said. "Your card meant a lot to me." She gestured toward the main living area. "Please come in. Are you hungry? I thought we might make that soup together." The kitchen in Aveline's penthouse was a chef's dream, all gleaming stainless steel appliances, marble countertops, and professional-grade equipment that looked barely used. Liam felt distinctly out of place as he washed his hands at the sink that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Maya, on the other hand, adapted with the easy flexibility of childhood. Within minutes, she was perched on a stool at the kitchen island, chatting comfortably with Aveline as they sorted through fresh vegetables. "Dad says chicken soup needs carrots, celery, and onions," she explained earnestly. "That's the holy trinity of soup, is that so?" Aveline replied, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. She looked to Liam for confirmation. "Mirepoix," he clarified, French culinary term. "Rebecca, my wife, was serious about her cooking. Mom made the best soup," Maya added. "She said soup was medicine you could eat with a spoon." "Smart woman," Aveline said, the same words she'd spoken days earlier in the hospital room. Liam found himself relaxing slightly as they settled into the familiar routine of soup making. He diced onions while Aveline and Maya peeled carrots. There was something surreal about standing in this luxury kitchen with one of the most powerful women in the business world, teaching her how to make chicken soup from scratch. "I've never actually made soup before," Aveline admitted as she awkwardly tried to chop a carrot into even pieces. "Never?" Maya asked, genuinely shocked. "Not even from a can?" "Not even from a can," Aveline confirmed. "I usually have meals prepared by the company chef or order in." Maya considered this with the gravity of a philosophy professor. "That sounds lonely," she finally pronounced. Aveline's knife stilled. "I suppose it is." Liam cleared his throat. "Maya, that's a private thought, not a sharing thought." "It's all right," Aveline said. "Children have a way of cutting to the truth, don't they?" She resumed chopping, and she's right. It is lonely. I'm just not used to admitting it. The honesty of her response hung in the air as they continued working. Liam added the chopped vegetables to the pot, then showed Aveline how to sear the chicken pieces before adding them to the broth. "The secret is to let it simmer for at least an hour," he explained as Maya carefully measured out herbs from the selection on the counter. "The longer, the better." "I guess that means we have some time to kill," Aveline said, looking uncharacteristically uncertain, as if she'd just realized the implications of inviting virtual strangers into her home for the evening. "We could play a game," Maya suggested. "Do you have any board games?" Single quotes, Aveline hesitated. "I'm not sure. Let me check." She disappeared down a hallway, returning a few minutes later with a dusty chess set. "This was my father's," she said. "We used to play when I was young." Maya's face fell slightly. "I don't know how to play chess." "I could teach you," Aveline offered, then looked at Liam. "If that's all right." He nodded, surprised at her deference to his parental authority. "It's good for critical thinking." While Maya and Aveline set up the chessboard in the living area, Liam took the opportunity to explore the kitchen. Everything was top of the line but showed little evidence of use. The refrigerator contained mostly takeout containers and bottled water. It reminded him of the days after Rebecca died, when cooking had seemed like an insurmountable task. From the living room, he could hear Maya's delighted laughter as Aveline explained the movement of the knights. "They're like little horses that can jump over other pieces." "That's right," Aveline confirmed, her voice warming in a way Liam hadn't heard before. "They're often the trickiest pieces on the board." Liam stirred the soup, adding a pinch more salt, then wandered toward the floor-to-ceiling windows. The view was breathtaking, the entire city spread out below them, lights twinkling like stars fallen to earth. He could see the hospital in the distance, a blocky structure amid the sleeker office building. "Dad, come look," Maya called. "I'm learning chess." He turned from the view to find his daughter beaming with pride as she correctly moved a bishop diagonally across the board. Aveline sat across from her, a softness in her expression that transformed her face completely. "Well done," he said, dropping onto the couch beside them. "You're a quick study, just like your mom." "Aveline says I have natural strategic thinking," Maya reported proudly. "That means I'm good at planning ahead." "Ms. Langford," Liam corrected gently. "No, please," Aveline insisted. "Aveline is fine, Ms. Langford makes me feel like I'm conducting a board meeting." She moved a pawn forward. "Your move, Maya." The chess lesson continued while the soup simmered, filling the apartment with a warm, homey aroma that seemed at odds with the sleek, minimalist decor. Liam watched as Aveline patiently explained each piece's movement, praising Maya's good moves and gently pointing out alternatives when she made mistakes. It struck him how different this woman was from the Ice Queen CEO he'd read about in business magazines. Here, Teaching chess to a second grader, she was thoughtful and encouraging, with none of the cutthroat intensity she was famous for in the corporate world. When the soup was ready, they gathered at the dining table, an imposing slab of dark wood that could easily seat 12. Aveline produced bowls and spoons from cabinets that looked like they'd rarely been opened. "This is wonderful," she said after her first spoonful. "Truly healing." "That's what Mom always said," Maya replied. "Soup heals from the inside out." "Your mother sounds like she was very wise," Aveline said gently. "She was," Maya nodded. "Dad has pictures. Want to see?" Before Liam could intervene, Maya had pulled out her small wallet with its treasured photo of Rebecca, candid shot taken a year before her diagnosis, showing her laughing in the summer sun, dark curls tumbling around her face. Aveline accepted the photo carefully, studying it with genuine interest. "She was beautiful," she said. "You look just like her, Maya." "That's what everyone says," Maya agreed. "Dad says I got her hair and her brains." "And her inability to filter thoughts," Liam added with an apologetic smile. "It's refreshing," Aveline said, handing the photo back. "In my world, people spend most of their energy hiding what they actually think." After dinner, Maya began to yawn, the excitement of the evening catching up with her. It was well past her bedtime. "I should get her home," Liam said, rising from the table. "Of course," Aveline agreed. "The car's still waiting downstairs. James will take you wherever you need to go." "Thank you for teaching me chess," Maya said, giving Aveline a spontaneous hug that clearly startled the CEO. After a moment's hesitation, Aveline returned the embrace, a complicated emotion crossing her face. "Thank you for helping with the soup," she replied, "and for your beautiful card." As they were preparing to leave, Aveline disappeared briefly into another room, returning with a small wooden box. "For you," she said, handing it to Maya. "It's a travel chess set. My father gave it to me when I was not much older than you." Maya's eyes widened. "Really? For me?" "If your dad approves," Aveline added, glancing at Liam. He nodded, though he felt a twinge of discomfort at the expensive gift. "That's very generous." "It should be used," Aveline said simply. "It's been in a drawer for too long." In the elevator descending to the garage, Maya clutched the chess set to her chest, her eyes heavy with sleep. "I like her," she declared. "She's sad but nice." "Yes," Liam agreed. "She is." "Is she your friend now?" Maya asked. The question gave Liam pause. What exactly was Aveline Langford to him? Not quite a friend, certainly not merely an acquaintance. They'd shared something profound in that hospital room, a moment of raw humanity that transcended social boundaries. "I don't know," he answered honestly. "Maybe." The next few days passed in their normal routine. Liam worked his shifts, Maya went to school, and life continued as it always had. There were no more text messages from Aveline, no more luxury cars waiting after his shift. He wasn't surprised. Their worlds were too different, the connection too tenuous to sustain outside the crucible of crisis that had forged it. Or so he thought. A week after their dinner at the penthouse, Liam arrived at work to find Marge waiting for him at the time clock, her expression unreadable. "Everything okay?" he asked, punching in. "You tell me," she replied, handing him an envelope. "This came for you today, hand-delivered." The envelope was thick, cream-colored paper, his name written on the front in elegant handwriting. Inside was a formal invitation to the Thomas Langford Memorial Fund Gala, to be held at the Grand Plaza Hotel that weekend. A handwritten note was paperclipped to the invitation. "Liam, I'm establishing a foundation in my father's name to fund accessible cancer treatment research. The gala is full of corporate types and politicians. I could use a friendly face. Please come and bring Maya if you like. A dress for her and a suit for you will be delivered tomorrow. No pressure, but I hope you'll say yes." Aveline Marge was watching him closely. "So, are you going to go?" Liam stared at the invitation. The Grand Plaza was the most exclusive hotel in the city. The gala would be filled with people whose shoes cost more than his monthly salary, people who would look at a hospital janitor and see right through him. Yet Aveline had asked for his presence, not as a server or staff member, but as a guest, a friendly face amid the corporate sharks. "I don't know," he said finally. "It's not really my world. Maybe it should be," Marge replied with a shrug, "at least for one night." That evening, Liam showed the invitation to Maya. Her eyes lit up at the mention of a fancy dress. "Can we go, Dad, please? It's like Cinderella." "It's a very grown-up event," he cautioned. "You might be bored, but Aveline will be there," Maya countered, as if this settled everything. "And she said I could come too." Liam looked at his daughter's hopeful face and felt his resistance crumbling. What harm could one night do? "I'll think about it," he promised. Later, after Maya was asleep, he sat at their small kitchen table, the invitation before him. He thought about Aveline, alone in that sterile penthouse. About Thomas Langford, who had built a pharmaceutical empire with the goal of making treatment accessible, only to see that vision corrupted over time. And he thought about Rebecca, who had fought so hard against a disease that didn't care about wealth or status or power. Before he could change his mind, he pulled out his phone and texted the number Aveline had used before. "We'd be honored to attend." The response came almost immediately. "I'm glad. Thank you." Just those 4 words. But Liam could sense the relief behind them. Whatever else Aveline Langford might be, CEO, billionaire, the frost queen of Langford Pharmaceuticals in this moment, she was just a woman who didn't want to face her grief alone. True to Aveline's word, a package arrived at Liam's apartment the following day. Inside were 2 garment bags, one containing a charcoal gray suit that somehow fit Liam perfectly, the other holding a deep blue dress for Maya that made her squeal with delight when she tried it on. "I look like a princess," she exclaimed, twirling in front of their bathroom mirror. "You certainly do," Liam agreed, adjusting the tie that had come with his suit. He couldn't remember the last time he'd worn one. Rebecca's funeral, probably. Do you think Aveline will be wearing a fancy dress too? Maya asked, carefully touching the delicate fabric of her skirt. I'm sure she will, Liam replied, though in truth he had no idea what to expect from this evening. The world of galas and fundraisers was as foreign to him as the surface of the moon. On Saturday evening, the same town car that had taken them to Aveline's penthouse arrived precisely at 7 p.m. James, the driver, smiled at Maya's excitement as she climbed in, careful not to wrinkle her dress. You look very beautiful, Miss Maya, he said with formal courtesy. And you clean up nicely as well, Mr. Burns. Thanks, Liam said, feeling uncomfortably like an imposter in the expensive suit.
Is Ms.
Langford already at the venue? Yes, sir. She's been there since noon, overseeing the final arrangements. James pulled away from the curb. She was quite insistent that I bring you directly to her upon arrival, rather than through the main entrance. The Grand Plaza Hotel was an imposing limestone edifice in the heart of downtown, its facade illuminated by strategically placed spotlights. A red carpet led from the street to the main doors, where photographers and reporters were gathered, capturing the arrival of the city's elite. James drove past the spectacle to a side entrance, where a uniformed attendant opened the car door. Miss Burns and Miss Burns, James announced formally. Guests of Miss Langford. The attendant nodded respect. Please follow me. They were led through a series of discreet corridors until they reached a private elevator. The attendant swiped a card, then stepped back. Grand ballroom, private entrance, M's. Langford is expecting you. The elevator ascended smoothly, and Maya grabbed Liam's hand in nervous excitement. This is just like in the movies, she whispered. When the doors opened, they found themselves in a small antechamber adjacent to what must have been the main ballroom, judging by the muffled sounds of a string quartet and conversation coming from beyond a set of double doors. Aveline stood waiting, her back to them, speaking quietly into her phone. She wore a floor-length gown of deep emerald that complemented her auburn hair, which was swept up in an elegant chignon. Even from behind, her posture radiated authority. She turned as the elevator chimed, ending her call. You came, she said, and Liam was surprised to hear genuine relief in her voice. I wasn't sure you would. We promised, Maya said simply, stepping forward to show off her dress. Do you like my dress? It's the prettiest thing I've ever worn. Aveline's expression softened. You look absolutely beautiful, Maya, like a true princess. She turned to Liam, her eyes appraising his appearance with a quick, practiced glance. And you clean up very well, Mr. Burns. Liam, he reminded her. If we're going to do this, let's at least be on a first-name basis. She nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. Fair enough. She hesitated, then added, thank you for coming. I know this isn't your typical Saturday night. Not exactly, Liam agreed, glancing toward the ballroom doors. So what happens now? Now, Aveline said, smoothing her already perfect dress, we make an entrance. The Foundation's board members are waiting to meet you. Liam blinked. Me? Why would they want to meet me? Because I told them you were instrumental in helping me establish the foundation, she replied matter-of-factly. Which is true. Our conversations in the hospital, They changed my perspective. She looked away. I've spent 15 years running my father's company in a way that would have made him ashamed. Tonight is the first step toward correcting that dot. Single quotes before Liam could respond. Maya piped up. Are there other kids here? Aveline looked momentarily flustered, clearly a rare occurrence for her. I'm not sure. These events aren't typically child-friendly. First time for everything, Liam said, echoing the words he'd spoken to her in the hospital. Aveline's expression cleared, a genuine smile breaking through. You're right. Fact, Single quotes, she stepped to the side of the antechamber and pressed a button on an intercom. Kelly, the young lady we discussed has arrived. Could you come escort her? Within moments, a cheerful young woman in a simple black dress appeared. Miss Langford. Kelly, this is Maya Burns. Maya, Kelly is one of our event coordinators. She has something special planned for you while your father and I handle the boring grown-up parts of the evening. Maya looked uncertainly at Liam. Dad, it's your choice, sunshine, he said. You can stay with me if you prefer. Kelly knelt to Maya's level. We have a special room set up with movies, games, and plenty of snacks. There are a few other children there, mostly the children of board members and major donors, and you can come find your dad anytime you want. Maya considered this. Do you have ice cream? 3 flavors, Kelly confirmed. Okay, Maya decided, but I want to see the fancy party first. That can be arranged, Aveline agreed. She glanced at Liam. Ready? He wasn't. Not even slightly, but he nodded anyway. Aveline took a deep breath, her CEO persona settling over her like armor, then nodded to a staff member who opened the double doors with a flourish. The grand ballroom was a sea of wealth and privilege. Hundreds of people in formal attire mingled beneath crystal chandeliers, their jewelry catching the light like stars. Towering floral arrangements adorned tables draped in white linen, while servers in black tie weaved through the crowd with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. A hush fell over the nearest guests as Aveline entered, Liam and Maya at her side. Then the whispers began, spreading through the room like ripples in a pond. Ladies and gentlemen, announced a voice over the sound system, Ms. Aveline Langford, CEO of Langford Pharmaceuticals and founder of the Thomas Langford Memorial Foundation. Polite applause filled the room. Aveline moved forward with practiced grace, acknowledging the crowd with small nods and brief smiles. Liam followed, acutely aware of the curious stares directed his way. Who is that with her? He heard someone murmur. Must be the mysterious consultant she mentioned. Brought a child to the gala. How unusual. Single quotes. Maya, for her part, was wide-eyed with wonder, taking in the glittering scene like a miniature anthropologist studying an exotic culture. They were immediately approached by a distinguished older couple. "Aveline, darling," the woman said, air-kissing Aveline's cheeks. "Such a lovely event. Your father would be so proud." "Thank you, Margaret," Aveline replied smoothly. "Allow me to introduce Liam Burns and his daughter Maya. Liam, this is Margaret and Howard Chambers. Margaret sits on our foundation board." "How do you do?" Liam said, shaking their hands and desperately trying to recall the etiquette lessons from his high school job readiness class. "And how are you involved with the foundation, Mr. Burns?" Howard asked, his tone politely curious but with an undercurrent of evaluation. Before Liam could fumble a response, Aveline stepped in. "Liam provided valuable insight into the patient experience during my father's illness. His perspective has been instrumental in shaping our mission." "How fascinating," Margaret said, though her expression suggested she found it anything but. "And what is your background, Mr. Burns? Medical research? Maintenance?" Liam answered honestly. "At Mercy General Hospital." The couple's expressions froze in momentary confusion. Liam sees the healthcare system from a unique vantage point. Aveline continued smoothly, "One that's typically overlooked in policy discussion. It's precisely that perspective we need to truly understand the gaps in patient care." Maya, growing bored with the adult conversation, tugged at Kelly's hand. "Can I see the ice cream now?" Kelly smiled. "Forth, shall we, Miss Maya?" Maya looked up at Liam. "Is it okay, Dad?" "Go ahead, sunshine," he said. "Have fun. Check on you soon." As Maya was led away, Howard leaned in. Bold choice, Aveline, incorporating diverse perspectives into the foundation. The slight hesitation spoke volumes. Liam felt a flare of indignation, quickly suppressed. He'd known how this would go. Known he would be seen as an oddity at best, an interloper at worst. But Aveline surprised him. "Not bold, Howard," she said coolly. "Necessary. For too long we've made decisions affecting patients' lives from boardrooms and corner offices, without input from those most affected. That ends tonight." Her smile was razor sharp. "Now, if you'll excuse us, there are others waiting to meet Liam." As they moved away, Liam murmured, "You didn't have to do that." "Do what?" "Defend me. I know I don't belong here." Aveline stopped, turning to face him directly. "Actually, you're the only person here who truly belongs. Everyone else is just writing checks to ease their conscience." She hesitated, then added more quietly, "including me." Until recently, for the next hour, Liam found himself introduced to an endless parade of powerful people, politicians, philanthropists, medical researchers, and corporate executives. Some were openly curious about him. Others barely concealed their confusion at his presence. Through it all, Aveline remained at his side, smoothly integrating him into conversations and ensuring he was treated with respect. It was exhausting. By the time dinner was announced, Liam had developed a newfound appreciation for what Aveline did every day navigating this world of power and appearances, where every word was measured, every gesture calculated. "How do you do this all the time?" he asked as they were seated at the head table. "It's like walking through a mine. Years of practice," she replied, arranging her napkin in her lap with precise movements. "And the knowledge that showing weakness is fatal in my world." Before he could respond, the lights dimmed, and a spotlight illuminated the podium on the stage. It was time for Aveline to make her speech. Aveline moved to the podium with the confidence of someone who had addressed crowds all her life. The spotlight caught the emerald of her dress, lending her an almost otherworldly glow. The room fell silent. Hundreds of faces turned expectantly toward her. "Good evening," she began, her voice clear and strong. "Thank you all for joining me tonight to honor my father's memory and to launch the Thomas Langford Memorial Foundation." She paused, her gaze sweeping the room. "Many of you knew my father as a brilliant researcher, a gifted oncologist, and a visionary businessman. Those of you who knew him well knew he was also stubborn, principled, and occasionally infuriating." A ripple of gentle laughter moved through the crowd. "What some of you may not know is that when my father founded Langford Pharmaceuticals 30 years ago, he did so with a singular mission to create cancer treatments that would be affordable, and accessible to everyone who needed them." She paused, her eyes finding Liam's across the room. "Somewhere along the way, we lost sight of that mission. Under my leadership, Langford Pharmaceuticals became focused on profit margins and shareholder value. We created life-saving medications and then priced them beyond the reach of most patients. We pursued patents more aggressively than cures." A murmur rippled through the crowd. This was not the typical feel-good charity speech they had expected. Liam watched as board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. 3 weeks ago, my father died of pancreatic cancer," Aveline, her voice steady despite the personal admission. "In his final days, he refused to take a Langford drug that might have extended his life by months. When I asked him why, he said, because it's not worth it." "Ava, not at that price." She gripped the sides of the podium, her knuckles whitening slightly. Liam could see what this confession was costing her. "My father's last act was one of principle. His last lesson to me was that we had failed him, failed our patients, failed the vision that started it all." The room was utterly silent now, the wealthy donors and board members transfixed by this unexpected turn. "Tonight I'm announcing not just the launch of the Thomas Langford Memorial Foundation, but a complete restructuring of Langford Pharmaceuticals' pricing model and research priorities. Effective immediately, we will reduce the price of our top 20 cancer treatments by an average of 60%. We will redirect 30% of our annual research budget toward developing affordable treatments for rare and neglected suspected cancers. And we will establish a patient assistance program that ensures no one is denied treatment because they cannot afford it. Gasps and whispers erupted throughout the ballroom. At the executives' table, several board members were frantically texting, no doubt checking the impact this announcement would have on tomorrow's stock price. I know this decision will be unpopular with some of you, Aveline acknowledged, her gaze cool as it swept across the room. Our stock will take a hit. Our profit margins will decrease, at least initially. Some shareholders will call for my resignation. She straightened her shoulders, her voice gaining strength. Let them. My father founded this company to save lives, not to maximize returns. It's time we return to that mission. She softened slightly, her expression becoming more personal. Recently, I've had the privilege of seeing healthcare through new eyes. During my father's illness, I met someone who showed me what truly matters in the darkest moments of our lives. Not stock options or quarterly reports, but simple human kindness. The kind of kindness that brings soup to a stranger. The kind that says, you're not alone. Liam felt a flush creep up his neck as several heads turned subtly in his direction. That perspective, that recognition of our shared humanity is what will guide the Thomas Langford Memorial Foundation. We will focus on 3 key areas: research into affordable treatments, patient support services, and advocacy for healthcare equity. She continued outlining the foundation's initiatives, but Liam found himself stuck on her words about him. Had he really influenced her that much? The idea seemed impossible, that a janitor mopping floors could somehow impact the direction of a pharmaceutical giant. As Aveline concluded her speech to thunderous applause, some genuine, some clearly performative, Liam noticed that not everyone was clapping. Several board members sat stone-faced, their expressions ranging from shock to barely concealed fury. Aveline returned to their table, accepting handshakes and congratulations with practiced grace. When she finally reached her seat beside Liam, he could see the slight tremor in her hands, the only visible sign of the enormous risk she had just taken. That was ... unexpected, he murmured as she sat down. Was it? She replied, taking a sip of water. After our conversations in the hospital, it seemed like the only possible path forward. Before Liam could respond, a distinguished man in his 60s approached their table, his smile not reaching his eyes. Aveline, he said, his voice low and controlled. A word? Of course, Richard, she replied smoothly. Liam, this is Richard Devlin, chairman of our board. Richard, Liam Burns. Mr. Burns, Devlin acknowledged with a curt nod before turning back to Aveline. Privately, if you don't mind. Actually, I do mind, Aveline replied, her smile unwavering. Anything you need to say to me can be said in front of Liam. He's a key advisor to the foundation. Devlin's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Very well. What the hell was that speech? You just wiped out billions in market value without consulting the board. This restructuring plan, it's corporate suicide. It's corporate responsibility, Aveline countered. And while I value the board's input, pricing decisions fall under operational management. My domain, Richard. The shareholders will revolt, Devlin warned. They'll demand your head on a platter. Let them try, Aveline replied, her voice pleasant but her eyes hard as steel. My family still owns controlling interest. Unless you've forgotten, Devlin leaned closer, lowering his voice further. This is about your father, isn't it? You're letting grief cloud your judgment. And who knows what ideas this ... janitor has been putting in your head. Liam stiffened, but Aveline placed a warning hand on his arm. My judgment has never been clearer, she said, rising from her seat to meet Devlin's gaze directly. And if you ever refer to M.R. Burns in that tone again, you'll find yourself looking for a new position. Now, if you'll excuse us, I believe dinner is being served. Devlin retreated, his face flushed with anger. As he stalked away, Aveline sat down again, her composure intact, but her breathing slightly elevated. I'm sorry you had to witness that, she said quietly. Don't be, Liam replied. But are you sure about all this? The price cuts? The restructuring? It sounds like you're risking everything. Not everything, she said, just money. And power, I suppose. A faint smile touched her lips. Turns out neither of those things mean much when you're sitting alone in a hospital room watching someone you love slip away. Dinner was served, an elaborate multi-course affair that Liam navigated with increasing confidence as the evening progressed. Between courses, he excused himself to check on Maya, finding her happily engaged in an impromptu dance party with the other children, her blue dress twirling as she spun in circles. Dad! She exclaimed when she saw him. This is the best night ever. They had chocolate and vanilla and strawberry ice cream, and I made friends with Emma, whose mom is a doctor, and Kelly taught us how to waltz. That sounds wonderful, sunshine, he said, relieved to see her enjoying herself. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I'm perfect, she assured him. How's Aveline? Is she still sad about her dad? Liam considered the question. I think she's sad, but also ... determined. She's doing something important tonight, something her dad would be proud of. Maya nodded sagely. That's good. When you're sad, it helps to do important things. When did you get so wise? Liam asked, brushing a curl from her forehead. She shrugged. I don't know. Mom always said I had an old soul. When Liam returned to the ballroom, he found Aveline deep in conversation with a group of medical researchers. She caught his eye and excused herself, making her way toward him. Everything all right with Maya? She asked. Having the time of her life, he confirmed. Though I should probably take her home soon. It's way past her bedtime. Aveline checked her watch. The formal program is almost over. Just one more brief presentation, then we can slip out. Liam asked, surprised. If that's all right, she said, suddenly uncertain. I thought we might talk. After this chaos, she gestured to the crowded ballroom. Sure, Liam agreed, though he wasn't entirely sure what more they had to say to each other. The evening had already been surreal enough. The final presentation was brief, a video montage of Thomas Langford's life and work, from his early days as a young oncologist through the founding and growth of Langford Pharmaceuticals. The final image was of Thomas in a laboratory, bent over a microscope, completely absorbed in his work. That's how I'll remember him, Aveline whispered to Liam as the lights came up and applause filled the room. Not in that hospital bed, like this, passionate, determined, fully alive. After the formal program concluded, Aveline made a brief circuit of the room, saying the necessary goodbyes to key donors and board members. Liam collected Maya, who had finally succumbed to exhaustion and was half asleep in Kelly's care. They met at the private elevator, Maya drowsy in Liam's arms, her head resting on his shoulder. James is waiting downstairs, Aveline said softly, careful not to wake Maya. He'll take us wherever you'd like to go. In the car, Maya fell fully asleep within moments, slumped against Liam's side. Aveline watched them with a curious expression. You're very good with her, she observed. It can't be easy raising her alone. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, Liam admitted, and the most rewarding. He glanced down at Maya's sleeping form. But tonight, tonight was special for her. Thank you for that. She's a remarkable child, Aveline said. You should be proud. I am. He hesitated, then added, and you should be proud of what you did tonight. That speech. It took courage. Aveline looked out the window at the passing city lights or foolishness. The board will fight me every step of the way. The shareholders will panic. The media will have a field day. She turned back to him, her expression surprisingly vulnerable. But for the first time since my father's diagnosis, I feel like I'm doing the right thing. They rode in companionable silence for a while, the car gliding smoothly through the late-night traffic. Finally, Liam asked the question that had been nagging at him all evening. Why me? Why involve me in all of this? I'm just, if you say, just a janitor. I might have to fire you from the Foundation Advisory Board, Aveline interrupted with a small smile. The what? I was going to ask you tonight, but things got a bit intense with Richard. She straightened, shifting into what Liam now recognized as her business mode. I want you to serve on the Foundation's Patient Advocacy Board, part-time with a proper salary. Your perspective is exactly what we need to keep us honest. Liam stared at her, speechless. I don't know what to say. Say yes, she replied simply. Or think about it at least. The car pulled up outside Liam's apartment building, the modest structure a stark contrast to the luxury they'd left behind. I'll think about it, Liam promised as James opened the car door. He gathered the still sleeping Maya in his arms. Liam, Aveline called softly as he stepped out of the car. Thank you for everything. He nodded, unable to find adequate words for whatever it was that had developed between them. This improbable connection across worlds that should never have intersected. As he carried Maya up to their apartment, he wondered what Rebecca would have made of this strange evening, of Aveline Langford and her foundation and her unexpected job offer. He could almost hear Rebecca's laugh, could almost see her shaking her head in amazement. Life's funny sometimes, she would have said. You never know where it's going to take you the morning after the gala. Liam woke to find Maya already up, wearing her pajamas and carefully examining her new chess set at the kitchen table. The fairy tale evening had ended, but its magic lingered in her bright eyes and animated chatter. Dad, I'm going to practice chess every day so I can play with Aveline, she announced, moving pieces with determined concentration. Do you think she'll teach me more? Maybe, Liam said, starting the coffee maker. She's very busy, sunshine, but she likes us, Maya said with a child's simple confidence. I can tell. Single quotes, Liam wasn't so sure. In the harsh light of morning, the events of the previous night seemed increasingly surreal. Had the CEO of Langford Pharmaceuticals really offered him a position on her foundation board? Had she really upended her entire business model partly because of conversations with him? It seemed impossible. His phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number, but Liam knew immediately who it was. Just checking that Maya got home safely and enjoyed herself. The foundation paperwork will arrive tomorrow. No pressure, but I hope you'll consider it. Also, it hadn't been a dream after all. Over the next week, life continued as normal on the surface. Liam worked his shifts, Maya went to school, and their apartment remained unchanged, modest, comfortable, far removed from the world of penthouses and charity galas. Yet beneath the surface, things were shifting. Aveline's foundation offer arrived as promised, a formal letter outlining a part-time position that would work around his hospital schedule and pay nearly double his current salary. The enclosed job description mentioned providing authentic patient perspective and ensuring programs meet real-world needs. Maya practiced chess daily, setting up the board each evening and playing against herself, occasionally asking Liam questions he couldn't answer. Aveline would know, she'd say, as if invoking a magical authority. And every few days there would be a text from Aveline, brief, professional, but with an undercurrent of something Liam couldn't quite name. An article about chess strategies for beginners for Maya. Question about his thoughts on patient transportation assistance programs. A simple, how are you both? 2 weeks after the gala, Liam finally replied to the foundation offer, accepting the position. That evening his phone rang. Not a text this time, but a call. Thank you, Aveline said when he answered, her voice warm with genuine relief. The first advisory board meeting is next week. Nothing formal, just establishing our priorities. I still don't know what I'm bringing, Liam admitted, watching Maya set up her chessboard for her evening practice session. I'm not exactly an expert in healthcare policy. That's precisely why we need you, Aveline replied. Everyone else will be experts, doctors, researchers, administrators. They know policies and procedures. You know people. After a moment's hesitation, she added, would you and Maya like to have dinner this weekend? At my place again? Or ... Somewhere else if you prefer. Liam was surprised by the invitation. I think Maya would love that. She's been practicing her chess religiously. I've been practicing too, Aveline admitted with a soft laugh. It's been years since I played. My father would be amused to see me brushing up on my game for a 7-year-old. They agreed on Saturday evening. And this time Aveline suggested a restaurant. Somewhere child-friendly, she specified. I need to get out of that mausoleum of a penthouse sometimes. They met at a casual Italian place, the kind with checkered tablecloths and crayons provided to young diners. Maya was delighted when Aveline arrived carrying a small gift bag containing a chess strategy book for beginners, illustrated with cartoon knights and pawn. I thought we could study together, Aveline explained as Maya paged through the colorful book with reverence. Liam watched them, struck by the contrast between Aveline's designer clothing and the casual restaurant. By the way, she set aside her phone for the entire meal, something he suspected was rare for her to focus entirely on. Maya's chess questions and school story. The board is furious with me, she mentioned casually to Liam while Maya was distracted by dessert. Stock dropped 18% after the announcement. Richard Devlin is gathering allies for a vote of no confidence. Are you worried? Liam asked, surprised by her calm demeanor. She shrugged slightly. My family holds controlling interest, as I reminded Richard. They can't oust me, though they can certainly make my life difficult. She smiled, watching Maya carefully dissect her tiramisu. But I've discovered there are more important things than avoiding difficult situations. That dinner became the first of many. Over the following month, a routine developed. Liam joined the Foundation's weekly meetings, offering his perspective on patient needs with growing confidence, while weekends often included Aveline in some capacity, sometimes at a museum with Maya, sometimes at a casual restaurant, once at a community theater production of The Wizard of Oz that had Maya entranced. Aveline never mentioned it directly, but Liam could see the toll the corporate battle was taking on her. Dark circles appeared beneath her eyes, partially concealed by makeup. Her phone would buzz constantly during their outings, though she increasingly ignored it. The shareholders' meeting is next week, she mentioned one Sunday afternoon as they watched Maya feed ducks at the park. It's going to be a bloodbath. Will you be okay? Liam asked, genuinely concerned. Professionally? Yes, I'll survive, though not unscathed, she hesitated. Personally? I'm not sure. I've never had my competence questioned like this before. Never been called emotional and irrational in board meetings. For what it's worth, I think you're the most rational person I've ever met, Liam offered. And what you're doing matters. I've seen it firsthand at the hospital, patients who couldn't afford their medications suddenly able to continue treatment because of the price reductions. She smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her in days. Thank you. That helps more than you know. The morning of the shareholders meeting, Liam sent a simple text, courage. Her reply came hours later. I needed that today. That evening, Liam was mopping the hospital's second floor when Dr. Carter approached him, tablet in hand. Have you seen the news? The doctor asked. Liam shook his head. Dr. Carter handed him the tablet, open to a financial news site. The headline read, Langford Pharmaceuticals in turmoil. CEO collapses during shareholders meeting. Liam's heart dropped as he scanned the article. Aveline had apparently collapsed while defending her new pricing strategy against hostile shareholders. She had been taken to Presbyterian Hospital downtown. The article speculated about stress and exhaustion, with anonymous sources suggesting the incident proved she was emotionally unfit to lead the company. I thought you should know, Doctor, Carter said quietly, given your ... friendship. Liam nodded, unable to find words. He hadn't realized their connection was so obvious to others at the hospital. Go, Doctor, Carter said. I'll cover for you as supervisor. I can't just... Yes, you can, the doctor interrupted. She needs someone right now who isn't there for a corporate reason. My guess is that's a very short list. 30 minutes later, Liam found himself at Presbyterian Hospital trying to explain to the front desk receptionist why he should be allowed to visit Aveline Langford. I'm a friend, he said, aware of how unconvincing that sounded. The receptionist looked skeptical. Ms. Langford has restricted visitation. Family only. She doesn't have family, Liam replied, frustration mounting. Not anymore. Then I'm afraid Liam Burns, a voice interrupted. He turned to see a woman in a tailored suit approaching. I'm Sandra Miles, Ms. Langford's personal assistant. She's been asking for you. Relief washed over him as Sandra led him through the hospital corridors, past private security guards stationed outside a room at the end of a quiet hallway. She collapsed from extreme exhaustion and dehydration, Sandra explained quietly. The doctors want to keep her overnight for observation, but physically she'll be fine. She hesitated. Emotionally is another matter. The board took advantage of the situation. They've temporarily relieved her of CEO duties pending medical clearance. They can't do that, Liam protested. They can when 3 doctors on the hospital board signed statements suggesting she's suffering from emotional instability following her father's death. Sandra's expression was grim. It's a corporate coup disguised as medical concern. Outside Aveline's room, Sandra paused. She won't admit it, but she needs a friend right now. I'm glad she has you, Liam entered the room quietly. Aveline lay in the hospital bed and four in her arm, looking smaller and more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. Her eyes were closed, dark lashes stark against her pale skin. If that's another reporter pretending to be a doctor, I swear I'll have security throw you out the window, she said without opening her eyes. It's just me, Liam said. Her eyes flew open. Liam, how did you know I was here? News travels fast. Are you okay? Physically? Yes. Just exhaustion, apparently. My body picked the worst possible moment to remind me I'm human. She attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Professionally, I've been better. They've temporarily removed me as CEO. Richard Devlin is interim chief until I'm medically cleared to return. Liam pulled a chair to her bedside. Can they really do that? They found a loophole in the corporate bylaws. Her voice was bitter. Apparently concern for patient welfare over profit margins qualifies as mental instability in the pharmaceutical world. She pushed herself up slightly against the pillows. The worst part is how they're spinning it, Aveline Langford. Consumed by grief over her father's death. Makes irrational business decisions that threaten company stability. That's not fair, Liam said, genuine anger rising on her behalf. No, it's not. But it's effective. Even with controlling family interest, I need board support to function as CEO. They're counting on me being too exhausted to fight back right now. She closed her eyes briefly. And they might be right. What can I do? Liam asked, feeling helpless. Aveline looked at him, really looked at him, vulnerability plain on her face. You're already doing it. You came. She reached for his hand, her fingers cool against his. Nobody visits the Frost Queen when she falls. Liam stayed with Aveline until a nurse politely but firmly informed him that visiting hours were over. By then, Aveline had fallen into an exhausted sleep, her face finally peaceful after hours of fielding calls from her assistant and dictating strategy memos for the foundation, which remained under her control even as the company slipped from her grasp. I'll come back tomorrow, Liam promised as he left, though he wasn't sure she heard him. At home, he found Mrs. Henderson dozing on the couch, the TV playing softly in the background. Maya was long asleep, her chest set still open on the coffee table. Everything okay? Mrs. Henderson asked sleepily as Liam gently woke her. You rushed out so suddenly. A friend is in the hospital, Liam explained, walking her to the door. Thank you for staying late, that CEO lady, Mrs. Henderson asked with surprising perception. At Liam's startled look, she chuckled. Maya talks, you know, and I read the papers. She patted his arm. Hope she's all right. Sounds like she could use a friend like you right now. Sleep eluded Liam that night. He kept seeing Aveline's face as she'd said those words. Nobody visits the Frost Queen when she falls, the raw vulnerability in her usually guarded expression. She'd built walls so high and so strong that when they finally cracked, she had no idea how to ask for help, no practice in leaning on others. Morning arrived with a text from Sandra, Aveline's assistant. She's being discharged at 10 a.m. Asked if you might be available. Liam hesitated. Today was Saturday, his day with Maya, but when he explained the situation over breakfast, Maya was surprisingly adamant. We have to go get her, she declared, milk dribbling down her chin. She doesn't have anyone else, Dad. The simplicity of her child's logic moved him. You're right, sunshine. Let me make a call. An hour later, they stood in Aveline's hospital room as a doctor reviewed discharge instruction. Aveline was dressed in a simple blouse and slacks that Sandra had brought her, but she still looked pale and drawn. Mandatory rest for the next week, the doctor was saying. Minimal work communication. Regular meals, hydration. He glanced up from his clipboard, noting Liam and Maya's presence with obvious surprise. And you'll need someone to stay with you for at least 48 hours. I have staff at the penthouse, Aveline said dismissively, and I can't possibly take a week off. The foundation has 3 grant proposals pending, and the board is already... Aveline, Liam interrupted gently. The doctor's not suggesting this for fun. She looked at him, her expression shifting between irritation and a strange vulnerability. Before she could respond, Maya stepped forward. You can stay with us, she announced confidently. Dad makes really good soup and I can teach you more chess. Our apartment is small, but the couch is comfy. Dad sleeps on it sometimes when his back hurts. The adults in the room fell silent, all eyes turning to the 7-year-old who had just offered a Fortune 500 CEO accommodations on their second-hand couch. That's very kind, Maya, Aveline said finally, her voice softened by genuine emotion. But I wouldn't want to impose. It's not imposing if you're invited, Maya countered with impeccable logic. She looked up at Liam. Right, Dad? Liam found himself nodding. Though the practical implications of having Aveline Langford stay in their modest 2-bedroom apartment seemed increasingly absurd the more he considered them. We do have a guest room, he clarified. It's Maya's craft room now, but the daybed is still there. Aveline looked between them, clearly conflicted. I couldn't possibly ... single quotes you could, Liam said quietly, if he wanted to. Something in his tone seemed to reach her. She looked at the doctor, who merely raised an eyebrow in a well expression. If you're sure, she said finally. We're sure, Maya confirmed, reaching for Aveline's hand with the easy affection of childhood. And that was how Aveline Langford, CEO of Langford Pharmaceuticals and one of the wealthiest women in the city, came to be sitting in the passenger seat of Liam's aging Honda Civic as they drove through Saturday morning traffic. We need to stop for groceries, Liam said. If you're going to recover at our place, you need proper food. I can have something delivered, Aveline offered. Probably, Liam agreed, but food tastes better when you choose it yourself. At the grocery store. They must have made a strange trio: Liam in his worn jeans and flannel shirt, Maya skipping ahead to the produce section, and Aveline looking simultaneously elegant and out of place in her designer clothes, pushing the cart with an expression that suggested she hadn't done this in years, if ever. "Do you have a list?" she asked, watching as Liam selected tomatoes with careful consideration. "Mental one," he replied. "Ingredients for chicken noodle soup, ingredients for lasagna, breakfast stuff, snacks for Maya. You cook everything from scratch?" There was a note of genuine admiration in her voice. "Most things Rebecca taught me." After she got sick, cooking together became ... single quotes. He paused, searching for the right words. "It became our way of controlling something when everything else was chaos." Aveline absorbed this in silence, then asked softly, "What can I do to help?" Liam handed her a bunch of carrots. "Feel these. You want them firm, not bendy." For the next half hour, Aveline Langford, who had negotiated billion-dollar deals and faced down hostile boards, received a crash course in grocery shopping from a hospital janitor and a second grader. By the time they reached the checkout, she had strong opinions about the ripeness of avocados and had engaged in a serious debate with Maya about the merits of different cereal brands. Liam watched them together, struck by how quickly Aveline adapted, how eager she was to learn this mundane skill most adults took for granted. There was something almost childlike in her curiosity, as if she were discovering aspects of ordinary life she'd somehow missed in her rise to corporate power. At the apartment, Liam could see Aveline taking in their modest living space, the worn but clean furniture, the walls decorated with Maya's artwork, the small kitchen with its dated appliances. If she found it lacking compared to her penthouse, she didn't show it. "Let's get you settled," Liam said, leading her to the small second bedroom. Maya had already cleared her craft supplies from the daybed, arranging her stuffed animals in a welcoming committee along the pillows. "I put Whiskers in the middle," she explained seriously, pointing to a well-loved stuffed cat. "He's the best for when you're sad." "Thank you, Maya," Aveline said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "That's very thoughtful." While Maya gave Aveline a detailed tour of her room, pointing out favorite artwork and explaining the importance of each stuffed animal, Liam unpacked the groceries and started soup. The familiar routine of chopping vegetables and simmering broth centered him, bringing a sense of normalcy to this surreal situation. When Aveline emerged from Maya's room, she looked exhausted, the brief burst of energy from the shopping trip clearly fading. "You should rest," Liam said. "Doctor's orders." She nodded, too tired to argue. "I need to check in with Sandra first." "One quick call," Liam conceded. "Then rest." While Aveline spoke quietly on her phone in the guest room, Maya helped Liam prepare lunch, setting the small kitchen table with careful precision. "Aveline looks really tired," she observed. "Is she gonna be okay?" "I think so," Liam said. "She just needs rest and proper meal." "And friends," Maya added with certainty. "Everyone needs friends when they're sick." Aveline emerged just as they were serving soup, her face slightly flushed from her phone conversation. "Everything okay?" Liam asked as she took a seat at the table. "Richard Devlin has called an emergency board meeting for Monday," she said, accepting the bowl he offered. "He's proposing a new pricing structure that would undo everything I announced at the gala." "Can he do that without you?" "Temporarily, yes. And if they can keep me sidelined long enough, ... single quotes, she trailed off, her expression darkening. "Monday is 2 days away," Liam said gently. "Right now you need to eat and rest." For a moment it looked like she might argue. Then she took a spoonful of soup, and something in her expression softened. "This is good," she said, sounding almost surprised. "Dad's soup is magic," Maya confirmed. "That's why he brought it to you in the hospital before." After lunch, Aveline's exhaustion became impossible to ignore. She retreated to the guest room, and within minutes of lying down, she was asleep. Liam checked on her once, finding her curled on her side, face relaxed in the deep sleep of someone whose body had finally overridden their stubborn minds. He spent the afternoon with Maya, building a fort in the living room and watching animated movies while keeping the volume low. By evening, Aveline still hadn't emerged, and Liam decided not to wake her for dinner. "She's sleeping like Sleeping Beauty," Maya whispered when they peeked in to check on her. "Maybe she needs 100 years. Let's give her until morning," Liam suggested with a smile. He was preparing Maya's bath when his phone buzzed with a text from Sandra. Board meeting details leaked to press. They're planning to vote on rescinding all price reductions and suspending foundation funding. Media requesting comment from Aveline. A moment later, his phone rang, Sandra calling directly. "They're moving faster than we expected," she said without preamble. "Richard knows Aveline is vulnerable right now. He's using her medical leave to push through everything at once. She's sleeping," he said. "Doctor's orders." "I know," Sandra sighed, "and she needs it. But by Monday morning, it might be too late to stop this." "What can be done?" "Legally? Not much without Aveline. Practically, we need public pressure. If patients, advocacy groups, and the media understood what was happening, that the board is using Aveline's collapse to reverse decisions that help patients, there might be enough backlash to make them reconsider." Liam thought for a moment. "I might know someone who could help. Let me make a call." After ensuring Maya was settled in her bath, he stepped into the hallway and called Dr. Carter. "I need your help," he said when the doctor answered, "and it might involve bending some hospital rules." Sunday morning dawned with Aveline still deeply asleep, her body claiming the rest her mind had denied it for weeks. Liam let her sleep, keeping Maya occupied with pancakes and quiet games in the living room. Is she ever going to wake up? Maya whispered, glancing toward the guest room door. She will, Liam assured her. Her body just needs to catch up on a lot of missed sleep. While Maya colored at the coffee table, Liam's phone buzzed with updates from Sandra and Dr. Carter. The plan they'd devised the night before was already in motion. Dr. Carter had reached out to colleagues at Mercy General and other hospitals across the city, gathering testimonials from doctors and patients about the impact of Langford Pharmaceuticals' recent price reductions. 10 hospitals confirmed participation, Dr. Carter texted. Patient advocacy groups mobilizing. Media contacts lined up for tomorrow morning. Sandra's message followed. Press statement drafted. Need Aveline's approval ASAP. Liam checked the guest room again. Aveline was finally stirring, her eyes blinking open as he gently knocked on the doorframe. What time is it? She asked, her voice rough with sleep. Almost 11, Liam replied. How are you feeling? She pushed herself up against the pillows, running a hand through her tousled hair. Like I've been hit by a truck. How long was I asleep? About 18 hours. Her eyes widened. 18. I've never slept that long in my life. Your body needed it, Liam said, sitting on the edge of the daybed. But we need to talk. The board is moving faster than expected. Fully alert now. Aveline listened as Liam explained what Sandra had told him and the plan they'd begun implementing. Been busy while I was unconscious, she observed when he finished. Actually, it was Dr. Carter's idea. He suggested a public pressure campaign showing the real impact of your price reductions on actual patients. Liam handed her his phone, opened to a message from Dr. Carter with a video attached. The video showed a mother with her young son, speaking directly to the camera. Before Langford reduced their prices, we had to choose between my son's medication and our rent, she said, her voice steady but emotional. Now we can afford both. Please don't take that away from us. Aveline watched silently, her expression shifting from professional assessment to something deeper, more personal. There are dozens more like this, Liam said. Dr. Carter has been collecting them all night. Patients, doctors, nurses all, talking about the real-world impact of your decisions. And Sandra wants to release these to the media before the board meeting tomorrow, Aveline concluded. Along with a statement from you, Liam confirmed, if you're up to it. Aveline set the phone down, a new determination in her eyes. Bring me my laptop. Coffee. Lots of coffee. By early afternoon, Aveline had transformed Maya's craft table into a command center. Though still in the clothes she'd slept in, her focus was razor sharp as she coordinated with Sandra, reviewed patient testimonials, and refined the press statement. We need to make this about the patients, not about me, she instructed Sandra on a conference call. If it becomes a personality conflict between me and Richard, we lose. This has to be about lives affected by corporate greed. Leah moved quietly around the apartment, bringing her coffee and making lunch for Maya, occasionally offering input when asked, but mostly staying out of the way of the corporate whirlwind that had invaded their home. Your dad is helping Aveline fight bad guys, Maya whispered to Whiskers, her stuffed cat, as she watched the adults work, just like in the movies. By evening, the plan was fully formed. At 6 a.m. the next morning, 3 major networks would feature interviews with patients affected by Langford's medications. At 7 a.m., a coalition of patient advocacy groups would hold a press conference outside Langford headquarters. At 8 a.m., just as the board meeting was set to begin, Aveline's statement would be released to all major media outlets. It's going to be close, Aveline admitted as they finally stepped away from the work. She looked tired, but nowhere near as exhausted as she had been at the hospital. Richard has had all weekend to secure votes, and he's very persuasive. So are the faces of real patients, Liam reminded her. They ate a simple dinner at the kitchen table, Maya chattering about school and chess to lighten the mood. After dinner, Aveline insisted on helping with dishes, standing shoulder to shoulder with Liam at the sink in a moment of surprising domesticity. Thank you, she said quietly as she dried a plate. For all of this, the room, the help with the board situation, ... single quotes, she hesitated, for showing me what a real home feels like. The simple honesty of the statement caught Liam off guard. You've never really had one, have you? Home, I mean. Aveline carefully placed the dried plate on the stack. I've had houses, apartments, the penthouse, but a home? She shook her head slightly. My father and I moved constantly when I was young, following research opportunities, then boarding school, college, business school. By the time I took over the company, I'd forgotten what it meant to put down roots. It's never too late, Liam said, handing her another dish to dry. Something shifted in Aveline's expression, a softening, a vulnerability she rarely allowed herself to show. For a moment, Liam thought she might say more, but Maya bounded into the kitchen with her chess set, breaking the moment. Can we play before bed? She asked hopefully. Just one game? One game, Liam agreed, smiling at his daughter's persistence. They moved to the living room, where Maya set up the board on the coffee table. Aveline sat cross-legged on the floor opposite her, looking surprisingly at ease in such an informal setting. As they played, Liam watched them together, the powerful CEO patiently explaining strategies to the eager 7-year-old, both completely absorbed in the game. There was something right about the scene, something that felt like it had always been meant to be this way. Maya eventually conceded defeat with good grace, yawning widely as Aveline explained where she could have moved differently. Bath time, sunshine, Liam announced. Say goodnight to Aveline. Maya hugged Aveline impulsively, arms wrapping around her neck. Night, Aveline. Beat those bad board guys tomorrow. Aveline returned the hug, something tender in her expression. I'll do my best, chess master. After getting Maya settled in bed, Liam returned to find Aveline still sitting on the floor, staring at the chessboard, pieces now arranged in what appeared to be a different game entirely. This is how the board will look tomorrow, she explained, seeing his questioning glance. Richard and his allies here, my supporters here. Swing votes in the middle. Liam sat down beside her. Chess as corporate warfare. Fitting. My father taught me both, she said with a faint smile. He always said business was just chess with higher stakes. She moved a piece, the queen to a vulnerable position. This is me tomorrow. Exposed. Richard will try to remove me entirely. She shifted a knight. But if I can get the medical community to move here, and public opinion to shift here, ... Single quotes, she slid a rook across the board. Then suddenly, the game changes. Checkmate? Liam asked. Not quite. But enough to keep fighting. She looked up at him. I didn't answer your question before, about what a real home feels like. It feels like this, right? Like someone caring enough to help you fight your battles. Like a little girl offering you her favorite stuffed cat because she thinks you're sad. Her voice softened, like washing dishes together after dinner. The simplicity of her words, the unguarded honesty in her eyes touched something deep in Liam's heart. Without overthinking, he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingertips lingering against her cheek. You're welcome here, he said quietly. Anytime, CEO or not. Single quotes. For a breathless moment, they remained that way, the chessboard between them, the air charged with unspoken feelings. Then Aveline gently covered his hand with hers, holding it against her cheek for a second before lowering it. I should get some sleep, she said, her voice steady but her eyes revealing more complex emotions. Tomorrow's going to be intense. Of course, Liam agreed, suddenly aware of how close they'd been sitting. Do you need anything? Extra blankets? She shook her head. I have everything I need. Morning arrived with a flurry of activity. Aveline was already up when Liam emerged from his bedroom, dressed in clothes Sandra had delivered late the previous night, her hair pulled back in a professional ponytail. The transformation from yesterday's vulnerable houseguest to today's corporate warrior was striking. The first interviews are airing now, she said, eyes on her tablet. Patient response is overwhelming the network's social media. Liam checked his phone to find a message from Dr. Carter. It's working. Every medical director in the city is calling Langford board members. Press is swarming their headquarters. Maya appeared in her pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Are you leaving? She asked Aveline, disappointment evident in her voice. I have to, chessmaster, Aveline replied, kneeling to Maya's level. I have an important game to play today, like we practiced. Exactly like we practiced, Aveline smiled. I'll let you know how it turns out. Promise? Promise. A car horn sounded outside Sandra, arriving to take Aveline to Langford headquarters. The moment of departure had arrived more suddenly than Liam had expected. Let me walk you down, he offered. At the curb beside the waiting town car, Aveline turned to him. Thank you, she said simply. For everything. Go get him, CEO. Liam replied with a smile. She hesitated, then leaned forward and kissed his cheek. Brief but deliberate. I'll call you when it's over. As the car pulled away, Liam touched his cheek, still feeling the warmth of her lips against his skin. Whatever happened at that board meeting, something had fundamentally changed between them. A connection neither had expected, but both now seemed unwilling to ignore. Upstairs, he found Maya at the window, waving as Aveline's car disappeared from view. Dad? She asked, turning to him with serious eyes. Is Aveline going to be okay? I think so, sunshine, he replied, hoping he was right. She's very strong. And she has us now, Maya added with certainty, so she's not alone anymore. Throughout the morning, Liam checked news updates between helping Maya with homework. The story was everywhere. Patients rallied behind Langford CEO. Medical community demands board maintain price cuts. Public outcry as pharmaceutical giant considers reversal of affordable medicine initiative. At 11:30, his phone rang Aveline's number. It's over, she said, her voice revealing nothing. The board meeting just ended. Well, Liam prompted when Aveline didn't continue. What happened? Can you come to Langford headquarters? She asked, her voice strangely subdued. Both of you. Maya, too. I need to tell you in person. Of course, Liam replied, suddenly concerned. We'll be there as soon as we can. An hour later, Liam and Maya stood in the imposing marble lobby of Langford Pharmaceuticals, feeling distinctly out of place amid the sleek corporate decor and well-dressed executives. Maya clutched her chess set, which she had insisted on bringing for good luck. Sandra appeared from an elevator, her expression unreadable. Thank you for coming. She's waiting upstairs. The executive floor was eerily quiet as Sandra led them down a corridor of glass-walled offices to a large conference room at the end. Inside, Aveline stood alone at the head of a massive table, staring out the floor, two ceiling windows at the city below. She turned as they entered, and Liam was startled by her appearance. She looked ... different, not defeated exactly, but changed in some fundamental way. You came, she said softly, the same words she'd spoken at the gala weeks earlier. We promise, Maya replied, echoing her own response from that night. She held up the chess set. I brought this for luck. A smile touched Aveline's lips. Thank you, chessmaster. I think it worked. What happened? Liam asked, unable to read the situation from Aveline's demeanor. She gestured for them to sit, then took a seat across from them, her hands clasped on the polished table surface. The board voted 8-7 to maintain the price reductions, she said. It was close, closer than I would have liked, But we won that battle. That's wonderful, Liam said, relaxing slightly. But why do you seem so ... Because I resigned as CEO, Aveline finished quietly. Liam stared at her, stunned. You what? You won, because winning one vote isn't enough, she explained. As long as I remain CEO, there will always be another battle, another attempt to undo what we've started. The board is too divided, too focused on quarterly profits. She straightened her shoulders. So I made them an offer they couldn't refuse. What kind of offer? Liam asked, sensing there was more to the story. I resigned as CEO of Langford Pharmaceuticals on the condition that the company be legally restructured as a public benefit corporation, with a binding charter amendment requiring at least 30% of profits be reinvested in affordable medication research and patient assistance program. Liam tried to process this. And they agreed? After I reminded them that my family's controlling interest gave me the power to remove the entire board if they didn't, Aveline said with a hint of her old steel. It wasn't a bluff I wanted to call, but they didn't know that. So you're not in charge anymore? Maya asked, trying to understand. Not of the pharmaceutical company, Aveline confirmed, but I'm now the full-time president of the Thomas Langford Foundation, with complete independence and an endowment large enough to fund research and patient assistance programs in perpetuity. She looked directly at Liam. I chose the foundation over the company. I chose helping patients over corporate power. A faint smile touched her lips. I think my father would approve. I think he would be incredibly proud, Liam said, understanding now why she had seemed so different when they arrived. The weight of perpetual corporate conflict had lifted from her shoulders. What happens now? He asked. Now, Aveline said, standing, I start building something new. Something that matters. She hesitated, then added more softly, and I was hoping you might help me. Before Liam could respond, Maya piped up. Does this mean you can come over more? For chess and soup and stuff? Aveline laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound Liam had rarely heard from her. I'd like that very much, Maya. She turned back to Liam. The foundation needs a director of patient advocacy, someone who understands the healthcare system from the ground up, who sees the gaps others miss. She held his gaze. I can't think of anyone better qualified. Liam blinked in surprise. Me? But I'm not. A hospital executive? A healthcare policy expert? She shook her head. That's precisely why it should be you. We have plenty of experts. What we need is someone who sees the real impact of our decisions on real people. Maya tugged at Liam's sleeve. Dad, you'd be really good at helping people. Looking between them, his daughter's hopeful face and Aveline's quiet confidence in him, Liam felt a surge of emotion he couldn't quite name. It wasn't just about the job offer, substantial though it was. It was about the way his life had intersected with Aveline. How a simple act of kindness in a hospital corridor had somehow led to this moment. I'd need to think about it, he said finally. It's a big change. Of course, Aveline agreed. Take all the time you need. She glanced at her watch. I have a final meeting with the transition team in 30 minutes. But after that, but would you both join me for dinner? To celebrate? Maya answered immediately while Liam nodded his agreement. As they left the building, Liam noticed the spring in Aveline's step, the lightness in her movements that hadn't been there before. She had given up immense power and privilege, yet somehow seemed more powerful for the choice. The celebration dinner was held not at an expensive restaurant or Aveline's penthouse, but at Liam and Maya's apartment. Aveline arrived with grocery bags, insisting on cooking for them this time, though you might have to supervise, she admitted with a laugh. Together they prepared a simple pasta dish, Aveline following Liam's instructions with the same focused attention she might give a complex corporate negotiation. Maya set the table, carefully placing her chess set in the center as a centerpiece of victory, as she called it. As they ate, Aveline shared her vision for the foundation: research grants for neglected diseases, patient assistance programs, advocacy for healthcare reform. Her eyes shone with a passion that transcended the cold corporate ambition that had once defined her. I've spent 15 years chasing the wrong things, she confessed over dessert. Success, power, market share, none of it matters compared to what we're gonna build. Liam asked quietly. She met his gaze across the table. I hope so. Later, after Maya had gone to bed, they sat together on the small balcony of Liam's apartment. The city lights spread below them like earthbound stars. Thank you, Aveline said, breaking the comfortable silence, for showing me another way to live, another way to see the world. I didn't do anything special, Liam demurred. You brought soup to a stranger, she countered. You offered kindness when most would have kept their distance. You saw me as a person, not a position. She turned to face him fully. Do you know how rare that is in my world? The genuine emotion in her voice touched him deeply. Without overthinking, he reached for her hand, his rough fingers intertwining with her smooth one. For what it's worth, he said softly, I think you made the right choice today. So do I, she replied, her eyes never leaving his. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm becoming the person my father raised me to be, instead of the person the corporate world expected. The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken possibilities. Then Aveline leaned forward and kissed him, not on the cheek this time, but softly on the lips, question as much as a statement. Liam responded, his free hand moving to cradle her face as the kiss deepened, years of loneliness and separate griefs melting away in the warmth of unexpected connection. When they finally pulled apart, Aveline rested her forehead against his. I should go, she whispered, though she made no move to leave. Or you could stay, Liam suggested, surprising himself with his boldness. She smiled against his lips. I'd like that. 3 months later, Liam stood in the doorway of a hospital room at Mercy General, a basket of food in his hand. Inside, Aveline sat in a hospital bed, pale but smiling, as Maya carefully arranged a chessboard on the rolling table beside her. How's the patient? Liam asked, entering the room. Bored out of my mind, Aveline replied, though her smile belied the complaint. These mandatory checkups are excessive. 2 days of observation after a stress-induced collapse is standard protocol. Dr. Carter reminded her as he entered behind Liam, especially given your history. I'm fine, Aveline insisted. The foundation event was a success, secured the funding we needed, and I only fainted a little bit at the end. You hit your head on the podium on the way down, Liam pointed out, setting the basket on the bedside table. That's not a little bit. Aveline made a dismissive gesture, then winced as the movement pulled at her for minor details. In the 3 months since she'd left Langford Pharmaceuticals, Aveline had thrown herself into the foundation with the same intensity she'd once devoted to corporate battles. The only difference was the purpose behind that intensity, helping patients instead of pleasing shareholders. Liam had accepted the patient advocacy position, working alongside her to build programs that addressed the real needs of families struggling with serious illness. His experiences with Rebecca's cancer and years of observing hospital operations from the janitorial perspective gave him insights no traditional healthcare administrator could match. Their personal relationship had developed alongside their professional, a gradual but steady deepening of the connection that had begun in a hospital corridor with a simple offer of coffee. Dad brought soup, Maya informed Aveline, looking up from her chess pieces, and fresh bread, and those cookies you like. Of course he did, Aveline said, her expression softening as she looked at Liam. He always knows exactly what someone needs. Doctor, Carter checked Aveline's vital signs, making notes on her chart. Everything looks good, but you're staying the full 48 hours, he said firmly. Doctor's orders. Fine, Aveline conceded, but I'm conducting foundation business from here. She gestured to the laptop Maya had smuggled in for her. Limited work only, Doctor, Carter countered. 2 hours max. After he left, Liam unpacked the basket while Maya finished setting up the chessboard. First move is yours, Maya told Aveline. Dad says you need the advantage since your brain is all wobbly from hitting the podium. Aveline laughed, the sound filling the sterile hospital room with warmth. Is that what he said? More or less, Liam admitted, serving soup into a bowl, though I believe I used the term concussed rather than wobbly. As Aveline and Maya began their chess game, Liam sat on the edge of the bed, watching them together. The CEO who had given up power to find purpose, and the little girl who had offered friendship without reservation. His daughter and the woman who had, against all odds, become such an important part of both their lives. The scene was familiar. A hospital room, a patient in need, a simple offering of food and company. Yet everything had changed since that first encounter with Aveline crying alone by the window of room 412. Nobody visits you, Maya had written in her card all those months ago, her childish observation cutting to the heart of Aveline's isolated existence. But that was no longer true. Now Aveline Langford was surrounded by people who cared, who brought soup when she was ill, who challenged her to chess games, who loved her not for her power or position, but simply for herself. Checkmate in 3 moves, Aveline murmured, studying the board. No, Maya protested. I've been practicing. Show me, Aveline challenged with a smile. As they debated moves and counter-moves, Liam reached for Aveline's hand, his thumb brushing over the simple ring he'd placed on her finger just a week earlier. She squeezed his hand in return, her eyes never leaving the chessboard as she guided Maya through a complex strategy. Outside the window, the city continued its endless rhythm. Inside, in this small hospital room that had once witnessed so much grief, a different kind of healing was taking place, the kind that comes not from medicine, but from the simple, profound truth that no one should face their battles alone.